Japanese first. 今日はアメリ・ブビエさんの、トークイベントを開催いたします。現在、10月の3日から11月の1日まで、ギャラリー A にて、アメリ・ブビエさんの、私はいつも空の方を見たという展覧会を開催しているんですが、アメリさんはもともと今開催中の、公募のアーティスト・イン・レジデンスの、プログラムに公募で選ばれたアーティストなんですが、ベルギー在住で、新型コロナウイルスの影響でちょっと日本に来ることはできなかったので、何か、代わりに滞在政策の代わりになることを何かしてほしいということを相談して、アメリさんからはその過去作の、展示と、あとはその展覧会の中でちょっと青森の人とこうコミュニケーションするようなアイデアを出してくださいました。で、本日はその展覧会についてのお話とか、あとずっと一貫して空とか、宇宙とかを元にした、作品を展開されているので、この今の活動に至った経緯などを、お伺いしたいと思います。
So I'll just sum up what Kaneko-san just said. She said that you were chosen to participate in the Artist in Residence program, that you live in Belgium, but unfortunately were unable to participate. And so you discussed with her what you could do instead. And you decided to display some of your past works on exhibition, but you also wanted to have this interaction, communication with the Aomori community. And so now you'll explain a little bit about your exhibition, about the sky, the universe, and how your works kind of relate to those themes or those topics. And we'll hear from you.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for everything, and thank you for the hard work also from all the team at the ACAC, because I can imagine that these conditions were very disturbing. The virus really put everything upside down, and I think I know it was very difficult to adjust to this kind of residency out of place, let's say.
まず第一に言いたいのが、もう本当にありがとうございます。皆さんの、力があってできたと思っています。特に今コロナウイルスの影響でいろいろと大変だったかと思うので、本当に感謝しております。
First of all, maybe I can start about a general view of my practice. That could after bring on a more specific explanation of the works that are in the exhibition.
まずは、私のその、創作活動の、概要を説明した上で、今度今展示されている作品一つ一つ説明していきます。
So I start my practice as an artist around 2011. Before that, I was having a practice that was closer to what we can call illustration or graphic design.
で2011年から、本格的にアーティスト活動を始めたんですけども、それまではグラフィックデザインやイラストの仕事をしておりました。
And so I start by being very interested in the notion of aerial view. So how we can call it also the view from a bird, which is a more romantic approach.
はい、まずは、自分が一番興味持ったのは、俯瞰図とか長官図って言われるようなもので、ちょっとこうロマンチズムがありますよね。ロマンがあります。その空から見た地球の、写真っていうのは。
So I start being interested by that for two reasons. First, because I hate to fly. I'm very scared to fly. And I always wonder why we wanted to go to the sky. Apart the fact that obviously it's much more fast to go from one place to another if we take the plane, but a part of that, what it means the fact that we human beings, we wish to be and to somehow invade the sky.
はい、で興味を持ったのは俯瞰図長官に 興味を持ったのが2つ理由がありました。1つは自分が飛行機に乗るのは大嫌いなんです。なので、その2つ目につながるんですけれども、なぜ人間は空へ行きたがるのか、なぜ飛びたがるのかっていうことについてすごく疑問に思ったんです。
And the other reason is also that at that time I was very much into spy stories. So I like to read a lot of, in French you call it polar, is this kind of police books. So, I don't know how you say it in English, but with spies and gangsters.
Detective stories?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like John Le Carré is one of my big writers in this aspect, and so there was this story that is not a fiction, is reality, that during the Cold War and during the Second World War they used pigeons to spy enemy territories. So they sent birds with cameras and they were able to take photographs from the sky from the enemy territory with birds.
で、2つ目の理由。1つ目の理由は飛行機に乗るのが嫌いだっていうのと、2つ目の理由がスパイの話がすごく好きだということでしたね。まあ、探偵系の小説だとか、推理小説というのかな、日本語だと。はい、で、それに関連して、冷戦あと第二次世界大戦、大東亜戦争の時に、まあ、アメリカ軍とかドイツ軍は、鳩を使って空撮を行ったそうです。
And all of this to say that I arrived to a fantastic book by Sven Lindqvist. I don't know if I pronounce well the name, but I have it here. So is this book, and it's upside down, right?
Oh no, we can see it just fine.
Okay, and so this book is the title is. If I translate in English, History of Bombing. So this writer, he's Swedish, he died last year, and he's a fantastic writer, and he's very engaged, and I think we can say he's an activist of non-violence. So he wrote several books that have a reflection, for instance, in the history of colonialism and how and why the violence exists, or in what are the aspects or the origins of the contemporary violence. And so this book speaks obviously about bombing, and to speak about bombing, it speaks also about history of aviation.
Thank you. で、その、まあ、冷戦中鳩を使って空撮してたっていうのも関連するんですけれども、それを知ったのは、このスウェン・リンクリスというスウェーデンの著者がいまして、彼、去年亡くなったんですけれども、彼は、非暴力の啓蒙家でありまして、それでこの本、さっきお見せしていた本が、爆弾史っていう、爆弾の歴史っていう本ですね。それについて、まあ、爆弾の歴史っていうのは必然的に、飛行機の歴史にもなるんですよね。その爆弾っていうのはもう飛行機があってこそ、発達した技術なので、彼は爆弾だけではなくて、もともとその、まあ、非暴力の啓蒙家だということで、現代における暴力とは何かで、それはどこから、まあ、根底はどこにあるのかということについても、書いているそうです。
And so in this book, there's two very interesting illustrations that can, so I will try to show you. Do you see well?
Yeah, we can see it.
So we have here a view of, this is Paris. So we can see here La Seine, people walking around, and you have a kind of a boat, flying boat, so referring to a plane. And this flying boat is illuminating the people in the city. So yeah, and then the next page, you have exactly the same boat here. So flying, a strange flying boat. There was no flying at that time. And instead of illuminating the people, we can imagine we are in a country, in an African country, and instead of illuminating, the boat is eliminating the people. So it shows very well the wish, or the difference, the duality of this wish to go to the sky.
はい、で今お見せした2つのイラストがあったんですが、1つ目はパリだと思われる、パリの街の風景なんですけれども、飛ぶ船が、街の人たちに照明を照らしている。要は、街灯のような役割を果たしている。に対して、2つ目が、アフリカのどこかの国の人だと思われる人たちが同じ飛ぶ船によって殺されている。これが多分飛行機ができる前の段階でのその飛行機の可能性について、両方の可能性について語っているのだと思います。
So and these two illustrations, I think they are still in a more or less metaphorical way, but still very very contemporary, and they speak pretty much of a lot of problems that happen today. And so all this book was very important on my practice because it permits me to think about this aspect or relation we have with the sky.
で、このイラストはもう100年以上前のものなんですけれども、今にも通じる、概念といいますか、メッセージがあります。今日における起こっている問題は、これを見ればすごくわかるところがあって、自分の創作活動の上で人間と空のその関係性について考えさせられるところがあります。
Yeah, it's also then the sky for me had these different aspects. It was so there was this aspect of relation with divinity, so something that is divine, something that is close to nature and that we cannot control, so is the power of nature. But then there's also this relation with a human being wanted to control something that is not made for them.
で、その空っていうのは、いろんな、側面があって、その中の一つがその、神秘性というか、その神との関係性と、もう一つがその自然の力、あとは人間との関係、その3つがあるというふうに思っています。
And on this last question of that we want or more and more want to kind of invade places that are not meant for us, there's another very interesting text essay from Alessandra Ponte. So here you have her name here, Alessandra Ponte. So the title of this essay is Desert Testing, and in this essay she speaks about the United States desert, particularly Nevada desert, that was taken as a field for nuclear testing, bomb testing. Yes.
で、最後のその人間と空の関係性という意味では、私たちのために侵略していく何か願望は欲望はどっかありまして、でそれについて語っている本があります。でその本っていうのはDesert Testing、アレサンドラ・ポンテさんの Desert Testing があるんですけども、これはアメリカのネバダ州にある砂漠で核爆弾の実験が行われたことについて書かれています。
So all of this is just to give you an idea why I'm interested in what I am interested, and one of the aspects that I treat in my work is about landscape and about how a landscape perspective changes in the relation to people on time, of course.
でなぜ前触れ長くなりましたけど、なぜこれを全部紹介するかというと、私の作品はこういった、著作物に基づいて作られています。そして、風景っていうのは人と時間軸によって、変わっていくものだっていうのが伝わればいいなと思っています。
So the other thing is, so I was in the sky and then I went more and more, so my questions didn't stop in the sky like we see, the blue sky, but went more and more high, so I kind of got lost in space, so I went to space.
空についてすごく興味を持っていたんですけれども、そこにとどまらず、 そのまま宇宙行っちゃった。で、今宇宙をさまよっているような感じです。
And also in history, I mean, it's interesting how it's related, because at the same time we were, I mean, especially the United States and you are the Soviet Union at the time, they were racing for instance, the moon, and at the same time there was the race for nuclear bombs. So there was these two major things that were happening more or less at the same time, or that made our history. And it's interesting how opposite they are and how common they are also.
それに関連して、アメリカとソ連がもう冷戦の時に宇宙に行く、競争をしてたんですよね。その月に、行く競争をしてたんですけれども、それと同時に核爆弾の開発の発展も競争してたんですね。でそれぞれ正反対には見えるんですけども、一つは、創作性というかものを作り出すとか、するのに対して、その核爆弾というのはものを壊していくっていうか、そうですね。で、それが本当に正反対に見えるものの結構近いものもある、類似しているものがあるっていうことについて不思議に思ったんです。
So then, yes, then I like, since let's say 3-4 years, I'm pretty much interested in looking to the history of astronomy, but also to the stories that make astronomy, the facts, the more speculative sayings, anecdotes. And so for me, astronomy is a science that is very interesting. I don't know nothing about it. I'm not a scientist. I'm just an artist. But I think astronomy is a thing that we cannot really touch, or so there's a lot of observation, a lot of calculation, a lot of unpredictability and uncertainty, and all of this follows the history of the science, but also follows the history of our own societies.
でこの3年、4年前から天文学について、興味を持っていて、天文学の裏話にも興味を持っている。で事実とちょっと投機的な逸話って言いますか、なんかいろんな話がその裏にあって、またその天文学っていうのは客観的に見れないっていうか、もう絶対人の観察が入って、そこで計算して、でどんどん変わっていくので、その不確実性って言いますかね、っていうことについて興味を持っていて、またその不確実なのに、結構人の人間の歴史と文化を大きく影響してきたものでもあります。
And so we can say that astronomy became, to me, became a tool. So a tool for me to be able to say things and stories and impressions and feelings. And more particularly, I think in astronomy, there's a moment very interesting is when photography when photography started to be used. Because before that, so before the end of 19th century, astronomy was all about looking, observation, and drawing it and calculating it.
で、天文学は、アメリーさんにとって彼女の作品の中で一つの道具になりました。というのは物語を、語るための道具、そして気持ちを表現するための道具でもある天文学というのは。で天文学の歴史においてとても興味深い何て言いますか、分岐点っていうのがその写真が発明された時です。それまでは、観察したものを誰か観察した人が、書く人にお伝えして、その書く人が絵画で描いてたんですよね。で写真によってそれがガラッと変わったそうです。
Yeah, so before photography, you had situations where the astronomer was looking on the telescope, so with his own eyes, and while he was observing, he was dictating to somebody that was close to him what he was observing, and this person was drawing or taking notes of of what this astronomer was saying. So it was a lot of information like passed to each other, and of course sometimes there was information that was a bit changed or interpreted in a different way. Yeah, this is the human imperfection.
誰か、先ほど申し上げたように、誰かが望遠鏡を見ながらも、書く人に、何が見えているかというのをお伝えして、その人が、メモを取りながらイラストを描いていくっていうような作業だったんですね。で、そのやり取りの中で、間違った情報が伝わったりとか、その解釈によってちょっといびつな形になったりした、伝言ゲームのような人的エラーが大きく起きてたそうです。
Yeah, so and then it created very interesting interesting representations, of course. And then photography arrived, and the photography was a big revolution because it was first time we could fix an image in a very short instant, like in same instant we could stop in time something that we were observing in a surface.
そのやり取りの中でとても面白い解釈を生み出してたけれども、写真の登場によって、一瞬で画像、今見ているものを固定できるようになったので、まるで一つの瞬間を、時間を止めるようにできるようになったんですよね。
Yeah, and then I believe that it was a big change because the notions of objectivity and subjectivity changed. At that time, we believed that photography was something very objective. Now we know that it isn't. But it was a big revolution and very interesting when we applied to astronomy.
でこれが大きな変化だったんですよね。その写真ができることによって、主観性と客観性の概念すらも変わったんですよね。で、写真ができることによって写真が客観的だっていうふうに思われていたんですけれども、今決してそうではないということがわかるんですけど、当時はそう思っていたんですね。
So this was to give you a little bit overview of the interest or where I am in my research, even if we could go deeper on it, but also technically. So I use mainly drawing in my practice. So I always had a reflection about drawing, what drawing mean, the relation of the paper with the ink. The drawings more or less minimal or the abstraction, etc. So questions that are very common, maybe.
でこれが私のその興味を持っている創作活動の上で興味を持っているその概要、これで終わるんですけれども、私の作品の多くが線の絵画ですね、ラインドローイングなんですけど、そこの紙とインクの関係性、またはそのちょっとミニマルなやり方で、結構抽象的、アブストラクト抽象的になりがちなんです。
But then applying to astronomy, I start to be interested in this relation to drawing, and I realized that the drawing is still necessary in science. There's what we call the scientific drawing that is something that is always used, and because the imagery, like imagery made or produced by a machine, by a photo apparat, or now by computers, sometimes cannot get into details as a drawing can get.
そこで天文学に興味を持ったときに思ったのは、まだ絵画っていうのは科学の分野においてもまだ非常に大切なものであるということが分かったのです。でその科学的なドローイング、scientific drawings がいまだに非常に価値のあるもので、機械によって書き出されるような図っていうのは人間ほど精密にできないこともあります。
So wait, I'm trying to share the screen. Oh, you need to, yeah, you need to. Yeah,
you can.
You should be able to.
Hi. Okay, do you see?
Yes.
You see this image?
Yes.
So this image is from a astronomer. It's a very interesting character. So we are also end of 19th century. His name was Trouvelot, and he was a French guy who had to escape France for political situation, and he went to the United States. And in the United States, after several adventures, he began to look at the sky and to make drawings of the sky. And so here is one crater of the moon. So you can see all the details. It was very detailed for that time. And then so
can I explain this real quickly?
Yes, yes.
で、今見ているこの画像っていうのは、19世紀の天文学者が描いたイラストです。その人の名前はトゥワルーさんで、フランス出身なんですけれども、そこを、亡命って言いますか、亡命して、アメリカに渡ったそうです。で、いろんな冒険の後に天文学者になり、このすごく精密な精度の高い、絵画を作ったんです。
So, and then here you have, this is a photography from the NASA, of exactly the same place on the moon. And apparently there was more details on the drawing of Trouvelot here than on the photography of the NASA. What I mean is, like, these drawings of Trouvelot are still today used. They are still used to take information and as a data for studies and research. Even if photography is already very well established, obviously, and computer imagery also is very established, we still go to pick information in the past drawings.
で、先ほどお見せしたのが全く月の全く同じ場所の写真ですね、これは。で、トゥバルさんの、その天文学者の絵画の方が詳細部分、細部がすごくわかるそうです。なので、今日も今も、その絵画が使われているそうです。天文学者が勉強するときに。なので、写真技術がいくら、高度なものになっても、やはりその絵画の価値は今だに続きます。
Yeah. So come back to you. Yeah. So then I start also drawing in a way where so I use lines, very thin lines. I use a ruler, and I start drawing almost like a machine, so line by line. And I can show you an example, is maybe easier because in the show.
彼女自身も、まるで機械のように、線で描くようになりました。定規を使って、まるで、機械のようにこう描くような作風も、始めました。で、今見せようとしています。
Sorry, just a second. I prepared everything, but I lost the drawing. So share. Oh. Share. Yeah. Here we are. So, for instance, in this image, you can, do you see some detail, or is it in big? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's quite big.
Yeah. So you see here is all by lines, and then you have these vibrations that happen, and this is caused because I work directly on the ruler, so I do some holes or I add some elements that permits my pen to vibrate, and it sometimes it can look like a seismograph or a cardiograph, and then depending also on the speed I input in the pen, the ink goes more or less easily out, and so it creates this kind of absence of the ink, or on the contrary, this kind of overload of ink. And so the intensities of the black are very different.
例えばこの、イラストだと、この絵画だと、これはすべて線によってできています。ただし、その定規を使うことによって振動が生まれます。振動が生まれたりとか、まっすぐ行かなかったりとかっていうのがあるので、たまに地震計みたいな線も見られてきます。で、それだけではなくて、例えばそのインクの量によって、またはその彼女の、紙に対する、なんていうんですかね、力によっても、その強度、インクの、強度って言いますかね。インクの、はい、が変わります。濃度ですね。が変わったりします。
Yeah, so I can show you another one, like this one. So this drawing, for instance, just to tell you the story of it, it's mainly inspired by solar flares. So solar flares are the activity of the sun, and there's some explosions. I'm saying this very, very, very fast, but there's some explosions of magma in the sun.
で、この作品は、そのソーラーフレアって太陽のマグマをこう爆発する、太陽フレアというものがあるんですけど、それによってインスパイアされています。
Yes, and so this activity of the sun can be more or less important, and it has an impact on us, on the Earth, because it's one of the reasons it's that these explosions create a space activity, space weather. The sun, when there's these explosions, sends some magnetic field, and it can have an impact in our own magnetic, the Earth's magnetic field.
で、この太陽の活動っていうのは実は重要なものであって、こういう、太陽フレアがあると地球上の私たちにも影響を与えるんですよね。例えばそのなんていうの、磁場っていうのかな。磁場を地球に送るこの宇宙天気を作り出すんですよね。
So there was one very, very important explosion in the middle of the 19th century that had a huge impact in our activity. For instance, this explosion made stop all the telegraph system. It blocked all the telegraph system. We didn't have electricity like today, so the repercussions were very small, but at that time it was already very important. And this is what you can see here in this line, white line. I don't know if you see my mouse, but the white line, it's the vibration of that was registered when this happened.
What was it registered on?
Oh, it was like a seismograph, you know.
Okay.
There's a, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know exactly the term. I forgot the term about it, but
Right, to measure it. Okay.
で
19世紀にあったこういう太陽フレア、この世の爆発が私たち人間の活動にも大きな影響を与えた経緯があります。テレグラフの、テレグラフで電信じゃなくて、なんていうんですか、電報のシステム、19世紀に使われた電報のシステムをすべて止めたんですね。で、その当時は電気がそこまで普及していなかったので、そこまで大きな影響はなかったけれども、まるでもし今日起きればどういうことが起こるのかって想像できますよね。で、この白い線、こちらの白い線っていうのが実際に19世紀に記録された、地震計じゃないんですけども、その磁場を測る、計測器があるんですけど、それ実際にその線を描写しています。
Yeah, and then the round shape that you see here is obviously referring to the sun, and it's an image that I took from internet, from the Belgium sun study. So there is a base here in Belgium where they observe and take an image every day from the sun. And I think these images was a image from the sun on the year that I did the drawing.
この丸いのがもちろん太陽を表していて、この太陽の参考となった画像っていうのはネットから撮ったんですけれども、ベルギーにはその太陽スタディーズ、太陽の専門をする機関があるそうですね。で、この画像っていうのがこの作品を作った同じ年の太陽の画像だそうです。
Yeah. So and also what like trigger me on all of this is that if today there's another sun explosion, is one of the big risks that we have, is that it will have an enormous impact in our Earth and in our lives, and it will be really problematic because today all the civilization is very much depending on electricity and on things that are very sensitive if there's a magnetic problem.
でもしさっきも申し上げたんですが、もし今日が、その太陽フレアがあれば、もう人類の生活にもう甚大な、被害を被ることになるでしょう。で、私たちのその文明そのものが電気にもう依存しているので、かなり大きなリスクではあります。
Yes, so the risk and this kind of silent risk or silent natural violence is something that interests me a lot, for which I'm very interested, and that I am dealing more and more in my work. Another subject that I'm like researching now, it's about the meteorites and how we want to control meteorites, or how we want to deviate them, and at the same time how a meteorite can have a huge impact on us, and it's something that we cannot control. I think we will always try to control it and find solutions to control it, but there will always be the possibility of asteroid or to come too close to the Earth without us be able to see it, and so this we cannot, the unpredictability, we cannot control it. So it's a risk that will always exist.
こういったサイレントリスクって言ってたんですけども、静かに、密かにあるリスクと、自然における、暴力っていうことについて、彼女のその作品の大きなテーマになっています。で、もっと今の作品の中でより多くこのトピックについて語っているそうですね。でもう一つ探求しているテーマとして隕石っていうものがあります。で、私たちはその隕石っていうものを制御しようとするんですけど、例えば地球に来ているものをどう対処すればいいかみたいな、よくサイファイの映画にもあるんですけど、それをどう対処できるか。で、実際に私たち人間は対処できない、制御することはできないものなんですよね。なので、その常に予測不可能なリスクを抱えていることについて非常に興味を持っています。
Yes, and before I speak about the works in the exhibition, I just wanted to speak about this last research. So I started doing a work, well, actually, because it's also related to one of the works in the show. I did a project called Pickering RM. So I also did a small book. I think the ACAC has one sample. So here is the title. And so Pickering was here. Pickering was a very famous American astronomer, and he was president of the Harvard Observatory from end of 19th century to beginning of 20th century. He died in 1919, and he was a pretty he was very passionate by what he was doing, and he was pretty much turned towards the future. So he was welcoming the new technologies. He was one of the first using photography in his research. Yeah, maybe I should stop.
Yep, thank you. He was using photography, and what else in his work did you say? I didn't catch that last part. You said
that he used, was one of the first using photography in his research and in his work.
Okay, thank you. で、まず今展示されている ACAC で展示されている作品について説明する前に、その関連の研究について一つ紹介したいと思います。で、何年か前に、ピカリングのハーレムっていう本を彼女が作ったんですね、書いたんです。で、ピカリングさんっていうのは、アメリカ人の有名な天文学者で、ハーバードの天文学の、学部長だったんですね。で、彼は自分の研究について非常に、熱心で、情熱を持っていて、天文学に写真を取り入れる先駆者の一人でもありました。で、1919年に亡くなったんですかね。19世紀の終わりの頃の話です。
Yeah, and another interesting thing on his work and history is that he was also one of the first scientists and maybe like a professional person in a very important institution to employ women in a very open way. I mean, there was a lot of women being employed, but they were always in the shadow, and he was the first that gave totally like they were independent, they did their work and they signed with their names and they had a salary, of course a salary much less important than the salary of men, but still they were recognized as professionals and as astronomers.
もう一つ面白いのがピカリングさんっていうのは、彼はもう女性を雇用していたっていうことですね。19世紀の当時は女性はあんまり雇用されてなかったり、また雇用されてても陰でしか、働くことができず、また自分が、独立している人も少なかったんですね。で、ピカリンがやったのは、彼らに彼女らに、ちゃんと彼女らを信用してクレジットを与えて、また独立させて、また自分たちの見つけた事実とかあれば、その人の名前を書いてもいいっていうふうに、なんていうの、attribute. He attributed work to them, basically, instead of himself.
Yeah, basically he fired all his team when he was elected president of the observatory. He kind of fired his team, so it was made by men, like always. And he started employing women. He started by his maid, and he worked out very well. So from that moment on, he worked mainly with women.
Okay. なので自分たちが見つけてた事実とか、新しい発見があれば、それをちゃんとその方に帰属するように、女性であろうが男性であろうが、ちゃんと帰属するように与えたりとか、あとは自分がその天文台に初めてこう、承認になったときに、任用されたときに、男性の人みんなクビにしたそうです。男性みんなクビにして、全員女性にしたそうなんですね。だからハーレムというタイトルが付けられました。はい、で、最初がメイドさんを雇って、それがうまくいったから、他に女性を複数雇うことになった経緯もあるとおっしゃってました。
So obviously this was a situation that was not accepted by everybody, right? So that's why some people call them the Harvard calculators or Harvard computers. And people who were not really agreeing with that call them the Harvard harem. So it's a more negative name.
なのでこの状況は、万人っていうかみんなに受け入れられたわけではないです。反対の人が多く、ある人たちはハーバードの計算機っていうふうに女性たちを呼んでたり、ちょっと軽蔑して呼んでたりとか、あとは、ハーバードのコンピューターで、場合によってもっと軽蔑的な言い方として、ハーバードのハーレムっていうふうに呼ばれたりもしてました。呼ばわりしてました。
So I can show you here. There's very nice photographs about the team. So here they are, and also oops.
こちらがチームですね。はい。
So here they are working. Of course, this is all images for photography, but And here, so here they are. So this is Pickering. They're surrounded by all his team. Yeah, he looks very happy there.
これがピカリング、まあ、女性に囲まれているピカリング氏はとても幸せそうな顔してますね。
Yeah, so actually they did enormous work and improvements in astronomy, and one of these major work of these women was basically to observe the stars, and they came with a catalog of the stars, so they could classify the stars. This was a major, really a worldwide major improvement in the knowledge of astronomy.
彼らはその天文学の分野で膨大な成果を上げたんですけれども、その中では彼女たちの仕事としては星を観測して、それを星のカタログ、まあ、百科事典みたいなものを作るのが仕事でした。
Yeah, so I can show you, they work with photography. They didn't observe directly. For one major reason is that to observe the sky, you need to observe it during the night, and you need to be in a room, sometimes in a room with a man, so it was not very welcome. So they couldn't do that, but they could observe with magnifying glasses the photography glass plates.
彼女たちが媒体として使ったのは生の目で見たものではなくて写真を使って作業したそうですね。それには重要な理由があって、その理由としては19世紀の当時は、夜遅くにしか星を観察することはできないから、女性が夜遅くに外に出ている、ましてやもしかしたら男性と一緒ってなればもうご法度なので、それはできなかったそうです。なので、写真に収めたもの、写真って言ってもこういうガラスのプレート、ガラスプレートの写真を観察して、それで成果を上げたわけです。
Yes, so I wanted to show you what it looks like a photography glass plate, because it's not just. So, for instance, up. Here we are. So this is the covers. So this is the photography glass plates in their pocket. Is like a vinyl is inside a pocket, and you can see all the annotations. So each time they discover something or they study something, it was a note added in the cover.
これがそのガラス板って言いますかね。ガラスのプレートの写真なんですけれども、ここに見えているのがそのガラスのプレートがスリーブ、ビニール製の透明のよく A4 のなんていうんですかこれ。
クリアファイル。
そう、クリアファイルのようなものに入っているそうです。
Yeah, so in this one, for instance, you can see several dates. You can see 1825, you can see 1900, you can see 2013. So you see there's different, sorry, it's not 2013, 1913. I'm getting too advanced.
ここでちょっと見えてるのがその日付が1908年とか1913年とかっていうのがちょっと見えていますね。
Yeah, and then a plate looked like this. Voila. So this is a plate. So here they are put it. So it's glass, glass that was where we put it a photosensitive product, and then it was exposed on a telescope, and then the image is a negative, is a photography negative, right? So the image that we have here is a negative.
このガラス看板っていうものはガラスで、望遠鏡でこう観光して露光したものですね。なのでこう今見ているのが写真のネガティブというようなものなんですよね。ネガティブそのものですね。
Yeah. So also in these images that I'm showing you, there is this is not a negative. What you see here, the negative is the little dots. I don't know if you see them very well, but what you see here, this kind of circle with letters, this is the annotations that these women did directly on the glass plate. So all these letters that you see is the different categories of stars. So this was their way of taking notes, basically, and they took notes directly on the negatives. It was big enough to take notes.
ネガティブに当たる部分は本当にこの星屑のようなこのものだけなんですね。で、その上に書かれているこの部分に関しては彼女らの注釈、メモですね。でメモを直接、ガラス看板に、写真看板に、取っていったそうです。
And in this, so then I went to this place, to the Harvard Observatory that became an archive. So it's the archive of the collection glass plates, and they have 500,000 of these images. It's really enormous. I can show you like an image of the. Oh yeah, it's sharing here. Yeah. So this is one image of the place. This is the plates organized in the cabinets. So there was really a lot of them. For instance, this is also some plates, some examples of plates. Just to show you a little bit.
アメリさんはハーバードのこのアーカイブ、写真看板のアーカイブに行ったんですけど、そこには、50万枚の、写真看板があるそうで、非常にも膨大な量なんですよね。本当にこう棚に、先ほど今お見せしているように、もう本当に棚にもびっちりこう詰まっている状況なんですね。
Yeah, and so I did a work called Pickering Aram, and for this work I did 45 drawings that were kind of a homage to the 45 women that work with Pickering. And then I did also a book where I could put all these drawings together. I can show you few of them.
ピカリング・ハーレムのその本なんですけれども、そのプロジェクトの成果物として45人の女性のチームにいたので、その45枚のドローイング、絵画を作ったそうです。で、それを収めたのが、ピカリング・ハーレムという本でした。
So for these drawings, I took details from these photographic plates, small details that, again, I'm not a scientist, so I didn't have, I was not reading them, these photographic glass plates. I was not looking for scientific information, but they are really beautiful, and aesthetically they are very intriguing. And they say a lot about our history and our collective memory. So I was picking details that could be, for instance, a test of the photographic emulsion, or could be a shape made by this woman's hands, or could be a shape made by the time. So kind of a degradation in the photographic plate. So all of this is how I compose the drawings.
でこの絵画には写真看板で見た細かい部分を取り出して作品に取り入れたんですね。で彼女は科学者ではないので、その細部的にこう美学的に神秘的にこう興味そそられるような細部の方を選んだんですね。でその細部の部分は具体的に何かというと、例えば女性の手によって作られた形、文字の形だとか、あとは例えば、看板の劣化によって、生まれる現象、形などを作品に取り入れたそうです。
Yeah, and so again here in this image, for instance, you can have this what I was telling you before about the approach in drawing. You have all these different ways of doing lines and doing a surface with lines. And the gesture is so repetitive that it looks like a machine. Sometimes when we look at these drawings, we think it is a printing, or it was made by impression. And I like when people say that, because it's really like I have the impression that I'm having a dialogue with my drawing, that my drawing is an individual by itself, and me, I am in the other side. And there's some dialogue and some parts where I can control the drawing, and other parts where it's the drawing that kind of control me. So we are in this perpetual duality, and yeah, it's also a way to reflect in the place of machine today, or in the place of handmade elements today, human-made elements today. Yeah, I think it's important questions to ask today in a time where technology is getting such a big place and space in our societies.
はい。ね、このイメージ、この画像で見てるように、線の描き方はいろいろありますよね。あって、彼女のプロセスはまるで機械かのように、線を一本一本繰り返していくんですね。まるで機械のように。で、このデッサンというか、ラインドラインが独立しているかのようにも思える時があるんですね。まるで彼女が制御している、コントロールしているけれども、実際に創発的な動きとかがあって、完全にコントロールしきれないのですね。それが非常に面白い、というふうに思っています。その永続的な二元性というか、彼女コントロール、絵画をコントロールしているかのようで、実はコントロールできていないというところですね。また、それが今現代において技術がすごく発達している中、それについて考えるのは非常に大事なことだというふうに思っています。
And yeah, just to end, if you want to know a little bit more about astronomy, there's a few authors and books that are really interested, and it's books that are written not just for scientists but for everybody. So some of them, they really look like a fiction, or like a poetry, or like a romance. And so I can give you a few names. This author, Yael Nazé, it's a Belgian astrophysician. I cannot pronounce well in English. But she works at Liège University, and I'm actually still in contact with her. She's really an amazing person, and she wrote a lot of books. And this book is great. It's the Astronomy in Feminine, or the Feminine of Astronomy. So she speaks about all these women that worked in astronomy. And yeah, there's other authors like Camille Flammarion, that is from the end of 19th century. His books are really fascinating. Sometimes they are a little bit science fiction.
What is that author's name?
Camille Flammarion. Flammarion. I can write if you. Should I write in the Zoom?
Maybe. What is it? I think I found it. Camille Flammarion.
Yeah.
Okay, I found it. Yes. This is as long as we have this. Okay.
Yeah. Ja, weiß ich. Ups.
もっと天文学について知りたい場合は、以下の著者を、お勧めします。で、この本っていうのは、教科書のようなものだけじゃなくて、例えば場合によってフィクションだったり、詩、ポエトリーだったりするんですけれども、一人が、ヤエル・ナゼっていうベルギーの天文学者で、実際に、アメリさんとの知り合いで多くの本を書いたそうです。で、先ほど持ち上げた本っていうのが、天文学の、女性らしさっていうタイトルなんですけども、それが非常に面白いそうです。で、もう一人が、カミーユ・フランマリオンという19世紀の終わりに活躍した方で、ちょっとサイエンスフィクションの要素も入っているけれども、彼の作品も非常に面白いそうです。
Yeah, actually, Camille Flammarion will permit to jump or to make the link with the works in the exhibition. So he was one of the astronomers that believed there was life in other planets. So his philosophy was that when we die here, we migrate to another planet. And before we were on the Earth, we came from another planet.
で、カミーユ・フラマリオンなんですけど、19世紀の終わりに活躍した方なんですけど、今の展示作品と関係があるので、ちょっとご紹介します。彼は天文学者の一人で、彼は他の惑星にも生命が存在するっていうふうに、信じていた方です。そして人間自身も亡くなればどっか違う惑星に行くっていうふうに思っていたし、自分が生まれてくる前は別の惑星に住んでいたっていうふうに信じていたんですね。
Yeah, and he also mainly when he was older, at the end of his life, he did a lot of sessions, spiritual sessions. So sessions where you gather together with other people and you kind of call the spirits to come to you. And he believed that these spirits or these souls were based or living in other planets.
で、都市行った時に、彼は結構、なんていうの、その神秘的な、なんて言いますかね、例えばイタコの降霊っていうのかな、降りてくるような、そういう、なんか、spiritual, like a seance, right?
Yeah, like a seance, yes.
そういうスピリチュアルな、降霊の、会議というか集会を行ってたりしたそうですね。
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful, his vision was a beautiful way to speak about after, or the belief of after death life, and also about extraterrestrial life, which is two things that we are still trying to justify or trying to research or trying to find. It's one of our uncertainties, right? Depending on our beliefs, of course. But, yeah.
彼が見ていたそのビジョンっていうのは、例えば死後の生命だとか地球外の生命について実に美しいものがあったそうですね。で、我々は未だにその、死後どうなるのかっていうことについてまだわからないし、その答えを見つけようとしている今なので、今に通じるものもまだあります。
Yes, and also I think at that time there was a fantastic idea of utopia regarding other places in other planets. A fantastic utopia that was the image of a total liberated mind, much more than today. And there was a very big connection in between the nature and the cosmos and the human being. And there was a very, very big, how do you say that in English? Humbled. So people were humble. Humble regarding nature and the cosmos, maybe more than today, right?
で、その当時は、結構、幻想的な考えがあったんですね。他の惑星にユートピアが、桃源郷が待っているという考え方があって、で実に今よりも解放された心でみんな見ていたそうですね。で、人間と自然と宇宙の関係性について語ったり考えたり、また人は宇宙に対してちょっと謙虚な姿勢があったんですね、今よりも。
Yeah, so this is a little bit reflection that I have in one of the works in the exhibition. That is the work, but keep your feet on the ground. That is these videos. So the 4 videos on the floor of the exhibition space.
これがその Keep Your Feet on the Ground。場面のタイトルがそのままですか？
そうです、そうです。
Keep Your Feet on the Ground。はい。
ギャラリーの床置きのモニターに置いてある作品です。
はい。で、4つほどですね。はい。
And so in these videos, I did 9 of them. In the show, there is just 4 of them, but they are a set of 9 videos. Each of them, they are very short. And for each of them, I use the same system. So it means that there's always planet or an element of our solar system. And this planet or element that becomes the subject of the video is visited by, more or less in a friendly way, but visited by hands.
はい、で、今4つ展示されてるんですけどね。ですけれども、全部で9個あります。でどれも短い映像なんですが、どれも同じ形で作られています。それは太陽系の惑星を表していて、必ずその惑星が手によって訪れられます。手がやってきます。
So at the beginning of each video, you can see the subject, the planet, and you don't really realize the scale, and you don't really understand what is happening. It looks like a real image, and then there's these hands coming, and it breaks totally the scale, and they start to manipulate the planets, like if these planets that are so majestuous become just a common object, and for most of them they are totally like they are almost in an operation room where they are ripped off and almost damaged.
この映像の一番最初に、惑星が見えます。で、この時点ではスケール感もわからないですし、よく何が起きてるかもわかりません。で、その後手がやってきて、スケールもようやくわかります。で、その手がいろんな操作をし始めるんですけれども、まるで例えば、手術室にいて、その惑星を手術してるかのように見えることもあります。
So the idea was to speak about or to transmit an idea, an opinion about the space exploration, and to question if it was a new way of colonization or what we are doing, why we always want to go to another planet or a planet B, or what it means. Is it reality? Is it fiction? Is it a possibility? Is it part of a close future or very far future?
で、この作品でやりたかったのが、その宇宙開発とか、その植民地化を疑問視するその意見を伝えたかったそうです。でこれ、宇宙開発っていうのはもう現実なのか、フィクションなのか、これは近未来の話なのか、遠い未来の話なのか。
And the other idea is to turn these videos totally unperfect. So they are very far from the perfection of like a clean image. They are almost like a craft video where sometimes you see, because I printed the planets in an A4 paper, so you see the paper sometimes moving, sometimes you see a little bit of what's happening out of the film frame. You see a lot of imperfections that turns this video very much more human, and at the same time not much more, but at the same time you are just facing a certain violence that is not really justified. And the narration on the videos always tries to be guided by the history of the observation of these planets, of each planet.
で、この映像はどれもちょっと不完全なところがあるんですよ。不完全というか、ちょっとアマチュアが撮ったかのような、作り方になっています。まるでこう、手芸のビデオにも見られるかもしれない。それはどういう意味かというと、その紙の端が見えたりとか、その実際使っている道具が手芸に使われる道具だったりするんですけれども、あとフレーム外、その A41 枚に印刷された惑星なんですけれども、その脇で起きていることがたまに見えたりとかしているんですね。で、これは不完全なのは理由があって、人間がやるから不完全であるっていうことであって、それと同時に、なんか正当化されたある種の暴力を、直視しているんですよね。その人間の行うその不完全性とその暴力性について語っています。
Also, like to do these videos, I almost put myself in a, I don't know if we can call this like that, but like in a performance moment. So I put these rules with myself. So I had my camera, my setup, my little stage. And so my hands became the actors, and I had to do everything in one shot. So I couldn't cut and start again and correct something. I had to do everything in one shot and do as less as possible work in edition. So I didn't edit the videos. Sometimes I cut some parts just to short the time of the video, but I didn't edit it to improve the quality of the video or to make some effect. Yeah.
ある意味ちょっとパフォーマンスというか演出もしたそうです。あるパラメータ、ルールを決めて、行った創作したんですけど、作ったんですけども、そのルールが彼女の手がこう俳優に、まるでその演出する俳優になるっていうのと、あとは、ワンカットで必ず撮影するという、その2つのルールがあったそうですね。で、また、撮ったものに関しては、後で編集することもなるべくしない。なので、その質を上げるための編集は一切行っていないんですけれども、長さとかは若干切ったりはしてるんですけど、それ以外の修正編集は行っていないそうです。
Yeah, so also my main goal was to play with humor, like to have inject some humor in these photographies, and that the humor could also like turn more visible somehow the tragedy that these videos also try to speak about. So having this kind of duality in between humor and the tragic.
そして作品にユーモアも注入したくて、注入したんですけれども、また悲劇でもあるんですよね。その惑星に対して暴力を振るということなので、そのユーモアと悲劇のその二元性についてもちょっと触れているそうです。
Yeah, so after these videos are surrounded by in the exhibition by a big fabric hanging from the ceiling, cotton fabrics. So on these fabrics, they are not monotypes, but they are prints. So prints from small monotypes that I did. So I did first the monotypes, and after I scanned them and I put them in very big in these fabrics.
で、この映像作品の周りは天井から吊るしている布の作品があるんですけれども、この布には、モノタイプのプリントが拡大されたものを印刷されています。
Yeah, so I worked with a Portuguese printer specialized in printing in fabrics, and together we were able to give a lot of details, and by really enlarging these small formats, there's a lot of texture that came that appeared, and that was quite a good surprise.
で生地を得意とするポルトガル人の、印刷屋さんと一緒にこの作品を作ったんですけれども、その布を使うことによって、その生地を使うことによって、テクスチャーが結構面白いのが出てきたんですよね。その感触って言いますか。面白いのが出てきたんです。
So monotype is a technique of printing where you use like the same ink that for etching or woodcuts. So and you print in the same machine that you use for etching or engraving, but you just have one shot. You just have one. So it's not an edition. It's a unique print.
でモノタイプっていうのは印刷技術の一種で、その同じ機械で同じインク、エッチングとか、エングレービング。エングレービングと同じそのインクを使う。で、もう一度きりの、作業なので、毎回違うんですよね。出てくるものは、出来上がるものは。なので、そういう意味では、すべてユニークになるんですね。モノタイプの作品は。
Yeah, so that's really what I like in monotype is this idea of unique shots. Like you just have one chance, even if you work for a full day in a plate, you just have one shot, and then you can be very happy or very sad with the result.
モノタイプのそういうところがすごく好きです。できたものはすべてユニークなので、 1日かけてせっかく作った作品はもうその日だけのこうものになるって嬉しい時もあればちょっと悲しくなる時もあります。
Yeah, and so in these images, I consider them as drawings also, but you can maybe now understand because I show you the drawings that I used to do on paper. They are very controlled and very clean, and the composition is a very long process making to do these drawings, and the time I use to do these drawings that I show you on computer is very they are very long. It's a very long time-consuming process. But with the monotypes, is the opposite. Is a very free, liberating gesture, and much faster result somehow. So there's a kind of relation with the instant that is very pleasant.
で、彼女はこの布状のモノタイプも、デッサンだというふうに考えています。ラインドラインというふうに考えていて、前の作品、以前の作品、ここでお見せした以前の作品、紙の上で行っていた、ラインドローリングはとてもこうコントロールされていて、きちんとこう一線一線書いていくので、ものすごく時間はかかるものに対して、モノタイプを作るのはそこまでお時間はかからないそうです。かからないし、かなりこう自由なものがあるので、そこでまたその二元性という言葉が結構出てるんですけど、また二元性が生まれます。
Yeah, so I thought this process was could apply very well to speak about movement, and so there's a lot of images in these fabrics that are related with movement. They are kind of abstract, but they speak about a micro world, but as well as a micro world. And sometimes you have movements of cells, but you have also their movements of, for instance, there's a meteorite or something falling. So the technique and the subject married very well together.
These are the fabric artworks, right?
Yes, always.
はい。で、その布の作品を作るにあって、その工程が、動きに対して、動きをうまく描写できるというふうに思ったんですね。で、ちょっと抽象的ではあるけれども、見ていると、隕石のようなこうマクロの世界から細胞のようなミクロの世界までこう見えるものが結構いろんなスケールのものが見えてくるんですね。
Yeah. And another thing interesting in the space of the exhibition, because it's first time that I show these works like this, is that you can see through and you can see the image from all the sides, and also with these spots and the light that is on top of the table that I will speak later. It makes also almost like a constellation in the space of the exhibition, at least how I see it. I didn't unfortunately see it for real, but in the images it looks like the results. Yeah.
でこのように作品を見せる展示するのは初めてで、どの角度からも見えるような、展示空間になっています。で、テーブルも展示空間に置いてあるんですけども、その上の、光もあったりして、なんとなくこう星座にもちょっと見えたりするんですよね。夜空の星座。自分は実際に見てないから分かんないんですけどって、実際に来て見てないのであれなんですけど、分かる範囲ではそういうふうに見えますと。
Yeah, and yeah, so and then there's the video at the end of the space, at the back of the space. So this diptych, that the name is 8 minutes ago. So the 8 minutes ago is the time for the sunlight to get to Earth.
で、一番奥には、映像、ディプティックの映像があるんですけれども、その作品名が8分前、8 minutes ago なんですけれども、8分っていうのが太陽から、地球に光が届く、照葉時間のことなんですね。
Yes, and this diptych, so you have in one side, you have mainly image, and on the other side, you have just a text. So in the image video, maybe now you recognize that most of the images come from the archive in Harvard.
でその映像の隣には、もう一つそのテキストだけの映像もあるんですけれども、その8分前の映像には、ハーバードのアーカイブで先ほどお話しした、ガラス製写真看板が多く登場します。
And this video wants to speak about, because I was in an archive, and an archive, I realized, well, I already realized before, but especially there, that is very difficult to maintain an archive. Also an archive that started more than 100 years ago. So there was a lot of problems in this archive. There was floating, there was some people who borrow some plates and never return them. There is some plates that are broken because it's a very fragile, glass is very fragile.
What does floating mean? Floating,
you don't say like that, is when you have a problem with water.
Oh, like floating?
Like water invading your space.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like immersion, corrosion, or something like that. Maybe I'm not sure. Floating. Interesting.
So when you have like lots of rain and suddenly there's water coming in and you cannot control it.
降水だと思う。多分降水だと思います。はい。flooding.
Flooding. Sorry, floating. Yeah, flooding.
はい。でこの映像では伝えたかったことが、そのアーカイブを維持するその難しさについて説明したかで紹介したかったんですね。で自分がアーカイブ行って初めて見たのはその洪水の問題だとか、仮パクした人たち、そのガラスの写真看板を借りてそのまま返さないっていう人たちがいたりとか、あとは、壊れた看板もあったりしたので、その維持っていうのはすごく大変であるっていうことを伝えたかったです。
Yeah, so I realized all of that when I was there, and so I started taking all these images, and I also realized that there's a way of organizing the archive. So they had, I don't know if you remember in these images, but I can show you again. Just a
この
second.
位置の大変さについて行った時に実際に気づいて写真に収めることにしました。で写真などそのアーカイブを整理整頓するための方法を彼らのその取り入れた方法についてもちょっとドキュメントしたかったんです。それがこのイメージですね。
Yeah, so here, for instance, you can see that there's colors on the paper that is protecting the glass plates, and these colors always mean something. So now I have a doubt, but I think the red ones are the ones that were digitalized and that are speaking or referring to stars. So this one is not a good example because yeah, for instance, here you can see there's a bit of purple. The purple are the damaged ones. So it's the ones that basically, I think, I need to see my notes again, but I think the purple ones are the ones that people are not going to see again because they have a problem. So there was all these colors and code colors, and I realized that there was groups of photographic plates that nobody was going to take them again on the hands and look at them because they were not, or they were not important regarding their own vision or the vision of the people organizing the archive, or because they were damaged.
でこういうふうに見えるんですけど、色分けされてますね。で確か記憶が正しいと赤は、デジタル化されたもので、保守に関する資料であって、その紫色、この紫色が、破損されたもので、もう二度と多分人は手に取らないというものなんですよね。でいろんな色があってて、でこの紫に関してはもう誰も見ないであろうというような色とかっていうのは、主観的なそのアーカイブが勝手にこれは破損したものなのでいらないというふうに決めつけたものなんですよね。そのビジョンに合わせて。
Yeah, so then I start to wonder how this selection as an example, in this archive, how it's no, sorry, I start again. I start to realize that we make a selection of things that come from the past that are in the archive, and this selection is going to induct our memory, or our is going to control our collective memory. And so I wanted to do a work about that, about how our collective, or start a reflection about how our collective memory is built up, and how it gets to the present, and how it's going to travel to the future.
そこで気づいたんですが、なんだろうね、アーカイブが勝手に決めたものだけがこの色で、他の色はもう無視されるという、それに気づいたときに、私たちが過去に関しては、取捨選択しているんですね。何が大事なのか。で、それをすることによって、将来の人たち、次の世代に何が大事だったのかっていう、集団的、集合的記憶って言いますかね。言葉ありますかね、これは。集団意識。
集合的記憶。
記憶で、はい、集合的記憶を大きく影響します。この時代にはこれが大事だったっていうのがね。で、そこでもちろん捨てられるものがあるので、その集合的記憶はどのように形成されていくのかっていうことについて作品を作りたかったです。
Yeah, so this is what I try to treat in this work. That is almost like a dance of images, and I also use a lot of images important for me that are part of my own archive. So the archive I'm building up since like 4 years, since I'm interested in astronomy. Yeah, so this part of the work speaks about that.
で彼女は今画像とか映像のダンス、踊りだって言ったんですけれども、彼女が天文学について興味を持ち始めて、たくさん映像とか画像を集めているそうです。で、その映像、画像もこの作品の中に入れています。
And then there's the text, and the text, so it's also about memory and about how the memory travels time, but it's more about a personal memory. So it's a point of view of one person, and this person, that is my father. So my father is 93, now he's 94 years old. And I asked him to tell me in this text, or at least the conversation started because I asked him what he thought about the night, what the night and the sky made him think about, or what comes from on his head when I speak about sky and night. And so this is the text that emerged from that conversation.
はい。で、次の作品が、その隣にあるのがそのテキストの作品なんですが、これが記憶っていうのは時間の中でどういうふうに旅していくのか、どういうふうに進んでいくかっていうことについての作品です。で、そのテキストが彼女のその94歳になる父親の観点から書いた、個人的な視点なんですけど、彼女が彼に、夜についてどういうことを考えていますか、どういうことを思い浮かぶのかについて彼女は彼に質問したそうで、その書いてきた答えがこのテキストになっています。
Yeah, so it's these videos are diptych, and I really like how they are shown in the exhibition space, because they are really like in dialogue. Both of them are in dialogue. One about collective memory, and another about individual memory. And this is a subject that it's getting more and more into my work, and also I see other artists that treat this subject in a very beautiful way. About time and memory, like for instance, Tacita Dean is one of my main references. She's really like a fantastic artist, or Ligia Pape also, that is a Brazilian artist. Do you want me to write the names, or is okay?
That would be nice. Tacita Dean, I feel like I've heard, but
yeah. Ligia Pape. Okay. Yeah.
Ligia Pape.
Yeah, she's a Brazilian artist. She died already, and her work was at the beginning part of constructivism, but then she shifted and she started like speaking about very political aspects of the was happening in Brazil at that time, and also about in a very poetic way about space, light, memory, time. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of other artists.
I mean, I'm just going to go back and explain how these works are taken, how they're in the exhibition space. 2つの映像作品というのはディプティックでこう見せられていて、その展示空間すごく気に入っています。で、一つはそのアーカイブの映像に関してはその集合的、記憶のものに対してテキストはそのある一人の人のその個人的な記憶のものなので、その二元性がまた生まれます。それがすごく気に入っています。で、ちょっと詩的なものもあります。で、他にこう、その、記憶についてちょっと詩的に語る作家さんはたくさんいるんですけども、その中の一人がそのレジア・パペさんで、この方が、ブラジル出身で、最初は、構成主義、コンストラクティブスだったんですけれども、ある時からそのブラジルで起きていることだとか、そのブラジルの情勢について、語るようになり、そこから、時間だとか空間だとか、そういうテーマを大きく取り上げた、もう亡くなった方なんですけども、そういう作家さんでした。
Yeah, and then there's the table, the table in the space of the exhibition, and this table it's part of my project for the residency, but unfortunately I couldn't come personally. So it all started because I saw I told you earlier that I was very interested in meteorites, and so I saw in the list of the fallen stones from the sky that there was one that fell in Aomori. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so it fell in 1984 plus it fell in a print shop. So it's kind of like almost surreal.
で、スペースにその展示空間にはテーブルがあるかと思うんですが、これが滞在制作の上で参加型の作品にしようと思っている作品ですね。で、その作品の発端というのは、彼女、先ほどもおっしゃったんですけれども、隕石とか、そういう隕石のような落下物に興味を持っています。で、その隕石の一覧を見てたら、青森があることを知って、それが1984年に、印刷屋さんに落ちた隕石の記録があったから、もう、これは素晴らしい作品、これをテーマに作品を作りたいと思ったそうです。
And yeah, so my main objective for this residency was to go there and to look for people that knew something about this meteorite. So there's also like a link with memory, right? Is that this event happened, people saw it. There's the family who apparently we discovered with Yukiko Kaneko that there was still the stone somewhere in the museum, but they didn't want to, at the end they couldn't borrow us. Yeah. Yeah, so it's there for people who want to see it. So you need to go to the prefectural museum of the city. And also the owner who is part of the family of this print shop, right? This is, yeah. He was very interested in collaborating with us, but it's very difficult to find any other image or writing about it. There's a very dense report, but it's very scientific. So you can read about the composition of the meteorite, the speed, the angle of how it entered in Earth, and this kind of things. But there's no civilian, let's say, report, and so that means that the resistance of this story on time will fade, right? It will fade, and maybe one day it will get forgotten.
で今回の滞在政策の一番大きな目標は、青森に来て、この隕石、落下した隕石について聞くことでした。で、なぜこれをやりたいかというと、その記憶、テーマである記憶と大きくつながっているからです。で、実際に共同館ですか？
県立共同館。
県立共同館には、その隕石が保存されてあるんですね。はい、展示されてる。
常設展で展示されている。
常設展で展示されていて、その共同館の館長がこの印刷屋の家族なんですか？
いえ、キュレーターの方が、ご家族と、に問い合わせをしてくれて、はい、隕石そのものは、所有はその印刷屋さんの家族で、共同館は帰宅されていて、預かっているだけの状態。
で、実際に家族自身はコラボしたかったんですか？それとも共同館がコラボしたかったけれども、結局ダメだ。
共同館が今持っているので、お借りしたいっていう話をして、持ち主の所有者の方も、いいですよって言ってくださったんですけど、共同館でまだ常設展で展示しているので、お貸しすることはできませんという結論になりました。
ありがとうございます。はい、で、この隕石以外では、他に画像とかあんまなくて、他に記録のものがなくて、残っているのは唯一、報告書があるんですけれども、かなり専門性の高い。はい、
そうですね。画像は2つだけ。
画像2つある。
共同館で持っていて。
はい。はい。そうか。I guess there's 2 photos of it.
Yeah, send 2 images. That's, yeah. They borrow two images. And so with these 2 images, I did a sort of a collage. And this collage is printed in a postcard, a postcard that is available on this table for people to take it as a souvenir or a souvenir of this meteorite.
To keep the memory from fading.
Yes, kind of. It was the idea.
で、その科学的な報告書はあったんですけれども、あとは画像2つだけしかなくて、あんまり情報がないので、今、アミさんが言ってたのは、いずれはあんまり記録がないものですから、記憶からどんどん消えていくのではないかっていうことですね。で、その画像なんですけど、その2つの画像に基づいて、アメリさんがコラージュを作って、で、それをハガキとして印刷して、テーブルの上に自由に持っていけるように置いてあるんですね。
Yeah, and the other thing that is on this table is two questions. Well, actually 3 questions that were, well, it was not supposed to be like this, but it was like a good solution for the situation of the impossibility to go there. So the idea since the beginning was to try to find testimonies of this event in a more or less realistic way. But so we decided to turn available these papers with these questions and invite people who visited the show and also the team of the ACAC to answer to these questions. One of the questions is asking if the people know something about this event, and if they don't know nothing about this event, what these words or the fact there's a meteorite that fell in a print shop, what it triggers in their imagination.
OK。で、テーブルの上には、はがき以外に、3つの質問が書かれた紙があります。で、本当はこのはずじゃなかったけれども、現状、滞在政策できなかったから、もうこの手立てしかなかったんですけれども、要は、この隕石が落下したことについて証言を探してたんですね。その青森市に住んでる人で何か情報ありませんかっていうの。で、それが最初の質問なんですね。この隕石が落下したことについて何かご存知ですか？で、もし存じ上げない場合は、隕石が青森市に落ちたことについて、ちょっと何を想像しますかっていう、どういうことを想像しますかっていう質問ですね。それ1個目。
それが
1個。
はい。それが2つ。
それが2つ。はい。はい。Those are the first 2 questions.
Yes. Well, okay. is one question, but with the possibility for the people who don't know about it also to answer, because the idea is not just to try to have a testimony about it, but also to see what this triggers, what the imagination, how the imagination can work with this, because to me it really like it makes even one sentence or the idea, even just the idea of this event, it makes me like imagine so much things and go like to travel a lot with my mind. So I would like to see how it is for the others, how it works for other people.
その想像っていう意味では、もう例えば一文だけでもね、その隕石が落ちたっていう言葉だけで結構いろいろこう想像できるし、頭の中でこう旅できるというふうにこう思っているので、他の人もその一問問いかけられたときにどういう答えが出るのか、ちょっと楽しみっていうか知りたいと思ったそうです。
Yeah, and then the other question is the same question that I asked to my father actually. So, but yeah, hoping to have people with from different generations and with different approaches to the sky, because I'm sure there's people who have a religious approach to the sky. There's people who have a imaginary approach to the sky. Others that maybe are totally insensitive to the sky. So I wanted to know, yeah, which kind of people this show will encounter. Yeah.
で、3つ目の質問が、彼女がお父さんに問いかけた同じ質問ですね。日本語で何と書いてあります？
あなたにとって空はどういう意味を持ちますか？
はい。っていうのが聞かれていて、で、できれば世代の違う人たちの答えだとか、あと宗教的に空を考えている人たちもいれば、例えば無関心な人もいるし、その想像豊かな人もいるかもしれないので、そのどういう答えが、展示を見る人たちから出てくるのか楽しみです。
Yeah, and the idea was also that people could answer with words, but they can also use like drawing or a diagram or whatever ways they want to express themselves.
で、回答はテキストでもいいし、文字でもいいし、絵画でもイラストでも全然いいです。
Yeah, and so this is a kind of a work in progress, because then I will receive the answers, hopefully translated, because otherwise apart the aesthetic part of the Japanese writing, I need to understand, and maybe then I can use this as a tool for a new project, or yeah. So I have some ideas, but I need to see the result to kind of come more realistic with the ideas.
まだ現在進行中で、この作品が展開しつつあります。で、それを、日本語から英語かフランス語に訳した上で、それを新しい道具として、新しいプロジェクトの道具、発端として使えるのではないかってちょっと期待しているそうです。
Yeah, yeah. So I think we oversaw all the exhibition, and yeah, and I think the title of the show, it's kind of gathering all the bodies of works, the different bodies of works together, and yeah, it's kind of a poetic way of speaking about the subjects, but also to invite people to really immerse themselves in the works that are presented. That I hopefully I hope that people were able to do that and had the feeling to enter in a universe different to universe. Yeah.
これがそのタイトルにあるように、こういろんなその作品を集めてきて、それを来客に見せることによって、自分もそのアメリさんの違う宇宙ですかね。アメリさんが提案する宇宙の中にどっぷり使って、そこから自分も、何かこう能動的に行える場になればいいなと思っています。
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's move on to Q&A.
Yes.
何かご質問があれば。Actually, there are 3 Japanese residence artists here.
Yes.
何かありますか？
質問じゃなくて感想みたい
な。ぜひぜひ。
なんか最近、ちょっと前に、なんか認知症の人が、幻覚なんかレビー小体認知症っていうなんか幻覚を見る認知症にかかった人がいて、だからその人が、自分の見る幻覚をドローイングで書いて記録するっていうことをしてて、彼自身は別に画家とかではないアーティストではなくて、ただ自分を記録してるっていうなんか認識でそれをやってて、なんかその展示を見に行ったことがいたんですけど、なんか絵本的ななんかちょっと可愛い動物の絵だったりとか、なんかちょっとポエティックな雰囲気のなんか可愛らしいイラストがたくさん毎日いろんなものを見るらしいんですけど、なんかでも記録、彼にとっては記録なんだけど、なんか他の誰もそれが本当に見えている通り、イラストの通りに本当に見てるのかとかわからない、誰も確かめる手段がないし、なんかそれってなんか結構インスピレーションを普通に何かインスピレーションを得て創作するっていうことと、なんかどこまでそれは違うことなのか、どこまで同じなのかみたいなのをすごい感じて、なんか記録するっていうことと、なんか創作するっていうその合間にあるみたいな意味では、なんか今のトークとすごくつながるものがある。
Just
one question.
It was more of an impression of your talk and your work than it was a question. But she mentioned that. お名前をお伺いしてもいいですか？Kamimura-san. Kamimura, another fellow resident artist, said she recently went to an exhibition of works by an individual who has dementia and sees hallucination. But what they've done, おじいさんですか？はい。An older man who sees hallucinations, but he draws those hallucinations as a method to record what he sees. And because he has dementia, he tends to forget it, right? But I guess there are a lot of cute animals in these drawings. It's not like he's a professional artist. He's just doing this to remember for his own memory. But he's making for the record, but there's no way to be sure if what he saw was real or if it was a hallucination, because he's just drawing what he sees. I mean, he's not making them for anyone else, but Kamimura-san, she thought that the keywords of like a memory or record and this search or exploration were kind of two keywords that maybe that exhibition had in common with your work as well.
Ah, nice, interesting. Well, yeah, and also like I guess also it's interesting because if this artist on this exhibition questions what is real and what is a hallucination, we can also question the same thing regarding the research I'm making and the visions that we have in astronomy, for instance, but in science or in life in general. What is reality, right? What is? I mean, I think today is a very interesting subject because we are all the time bombarded by conspiracy theories and speculation theories that changed or question our own reality. So of course, not just in an image approach, but also a philosophical and in the ideas or politically speaking. So it's interesting because yeah, we are never sure about what is reality and what is not. It's like the relation with subjectivity and objectivity. What is real subjectivity and what is real objectivity. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. それは非常に面白い見解ですね。で、何が現実で何が幻なのか、確かにそれはちょっと共通している部分もあるかもしれないですし、 で、私たちは、彼女、アメリさんは、彼女が行っている研究とか、その観察について同じことを言えるんじゃないかと思います。で、非常に、今現在も非常に面白いねって。なぜなら、今、なんか、陰謀とか、憶測とか、都市伝説とか、そういうのがもう氾濫してるじゃないですか。あと、ソーシャルメディアによる、例えばフェイクニュースだとか、もうそういう時代に生きてるからこそ、非常に興味深いテーマだと思います。で、これは、哲学的なアプローチでもあると思っていまして、現実とは何かについて私たちはもう決して確信することはできないってまで言っています。で、結局、アメリさんが最初の方でおっしゃってた、その主観性と客観性、例えば写真における主観性、客観性についても触れているというふうに思っているそうです。Yeah, subjectivity, objectivity.
ありますか？なんかすごい催促して、すみません。
なんか絵を描くのですごい絵描きとしてちょっと細かいことかもしれないんですけど、さっきのガラス板の、写真をドローイングにラインドローイングに展開されているという話で、40何枚か描かれてるんです。そこの写真とドローイングの飛躍が結構あるなと思って、そこに面白さがあると思ったので、統計的に美しいし、強い形としてあるなと思って、そこのこっちからこっち行くときに、何かアメリさんの中でこう展開するルールみたいなものとか、なんかこの形は確実にその40何枚のドローイングに使うとか、こっちのガラス板の方にかなり寄っていっているのか、それともこっち側の自分のドローイングの書き癖みたいなのも何かルールがあるのか、どっちに寄っているんだろうなっていうのを。
ありがとうございます。頑張って聞いてみます。
すみません。
This is from Nohara-san, a fellow resident artist, and she is also she draws and paints, and so it's a kind of a more detailed question into your methodology, your method, especially those 45 drawings you did for the harem. She was wondering if there were any rules that you had, like this shape on the glass has to be this shape in the drawing, or if you try to do a realistic representation of the glass plates into a drawing, or if you somehow transform them and you had rules or parameters that you followed as you did the 45 different drawings.
Yes, as I told you, I took some details from these plates. So the details were shapes. So I tried to keep as close as possible from the shape. So once I had the shape, I organized my composition by doing some sort of stencil, which means that I use paper to protect my paper, and then I was drawing just inside this shape, so limited by the paper. But one drawing is not about one plate. One drawing is composed by details of several plates. And also it's not one drawing, one woman. It's homage to all this team of women, and because each woman work in different plates, also my drawings were made with shapes from different plates, and then there's so shapes that overlap in the drawing, so create some kind of different grays or different blacks, different intensities. Yeah, so there was some rules, but at the same time it was kind of free, because also the size of the shapes, this was totally subjective. So I kind of, it came by doing. So I didn't use the same shape or the same size. Yes, scale, that in the or the scale relation even. So the shapes, if they were the same size in the plates, they could be different on the drawings. Yeah.
All right, I will try to translate that.
Yeah. Sorry.
ガラスのその看板から取ったのが、形だそうです。シェイプだけを取って、で、そのシェイプ、その形はなるべく類似するものにしようとしたんですね。ただし、そのスケール、大きさは自由に変動することは許されていたんですね、彼女の中では。で、そのシェイプを今度ステンシルを使って、その構図を作って、描いていったんですね。で、1枚の絵は1枚の、看板だっていうわけではなく、また、1枚の絵っていうのは一人の女性に捧げるものではなく、なんか全部ごちゃ混ぜにしているそうです。もう全チームへのオマージュだそうですので、女性、その働く女性たちはみんな違う看板を扱ってた、複数の人で一つの看板を操ってたと同じように、その看板から取ったさまざまな形を一つの絵にしたりとか、そこはルールはなかったみたいですね。で、で、たまにこの形を重ね合ったりもしたそうです。なので、取ったのは、あくまで形だけであって、ガラスのその看板の形に寄せたっていうわけではないそうですね。答えになったかな。
Yeah, it answered to the.
I think so. I have a question about the stencils, though. But you created the composition using a stencil, or you had a composition and then?
No, so when I say stencils, is just that I do the shapes with paper, but it's I don't work these shapes on computer and cut them after. I do them by just overlapping, protecting. It's a way to protect my paper.
Okay.
So there's a limit on the area that I'm drawing, and it doesn't go over that. But it's all made. So I have all these papers, these lines of papers that I kind of
stack and overlay on top of each other.
Yes. Not on top of each other, but I put them like so the paper is protected.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it was your question, sorry.
Kind of, I was wondering how you use the stencils with your composition. Yeah, with the composition.
Yeah. So and that's why there's well, I can show you one drawing just to explain better. Wait.
見せてくれるそうです。僕個人的にステンシルの使い方はよくわからなかったので、それについて。そうですね。もう自分の手で一切パソコン使ってないそうですね。でもまるでパソコンで作られたかのようなその出来上がりが非常に好きだって言ってましたね。
So, for instance, in the drawing on the screen, I had several shapes that I cut on paper. The round ones, for instance, you see that the limits are very, very clear.
Yeah, right.
The frontiers in between the part that is drawn and the part that is not drawn. And you see also like there's areas where the ink is more dark, is because my hand is arriving to the stencils, right, to the limit, so the ink stays more there. So you see, yeah.
ステンシルっていうのはこの上に置いてで、書いているそうなんですよね。なのでここら辺が暗いのが結局ステンシルはここにあるから、そこにこうピタッと止まるんですよね。でピタッと止まった時にインクの濃度が濃くなるという現象が起きるそうです。
But maybe I should say collage rather than stencil. Is a collage.
But it is a stencil, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How did you get the wavy lines in the circles?
So the wavy lines are okay. So I'm not in my studio because I don't have internet in my studio, and I forgot to pick one of the rulers to show you.
Oh, I see. The ruler is like.
Yeah, so I cut them. So I don't have any here. So there's the ruler, and I kind of take out with a knife I engrave in the ruler. Yeah. So then there's and I use both sides of the ruler. So if the ruler is touching the paper, I can have effects like wait. Where it is?
定規を使って書いてるっておっしゃってたんですけれども、その定規のこのちょっと波のような線っていうかギザギザになってる線どうやって作ったんですかって聞いたら、定規を彫ったりしてそのギザギザの線を作ってそれでこうトレーシングしているそうですね。で両方定規の表裏両方使ってるそうですね。
So this can be visible here. So this is another body of works, but just to show you the technique, is inspired by graphics. This work, but you see here there's a lot of ink spreaded. I will try to find a detail.
これ別の作品ですけれども、そのグラフィックデザインにインスパイアされた作品です。で、ここの濃いところあるんですけど。
So here you have a detail. You see all this ink is because my ruler is really touching. This is not paper, it's canvas, but my ruler is really touching the canvas. And so when there's a little bit of ink that stays on the ruler, each time that I do a line, there's more and more ink accumulating, and then I can kind of bring the ink all over the drawing and give movement to the ink. If I put the ruler the other side, the edge of the ruler is not touching the surface of the canvas, and so I don't have that. Yeah.
でこの濃く出てるところっていうのは、その定規を多分表で使うときには、紙に直接当たっていて、そのインクがその先端部分にたまるから、そうすると定規をずらしたときに濃く残っちゃう。で、その逆、裏で使うときには、直接定規とインクは触らないので、まだ濃く出ないというような現象が起きるそうですね。
Yeah, you can see it here also. So this kind of ink, they are not accidents. They are ink shapes. They work almost like a rhythm, and here it looks like almost like a music partition with notes. So.
この濃い部分っていうのは偶然にできたものではなくて、意図的に作っています。で、これを見ると若干音符にもちょっと見えたりしますよね。
これ垂直に書いてるんですかね。こっち向き
Are you drawing this one? Is this drawn vertically or horizontally or both?
This is a detail, and how it was. Yeah, like this. Like this. How are the Wait, now I'm lost. I lost myself in the. This is just a detail. So yeah, okay. This is the. So it was this one.
Yeah. Oh, it is horizontal.
Yeah, but I draw flat. Huh? It's flat. So when I'm drawing, I just turn around the canvas.
紙ではなくてカンバスなんですよね。
結構平滑に下地塗ってます。
Do you do any kind of what is it called? It's not veneer. What is it called? Do you do any processing to your canvas before starting to draw?
Yes, I do. I paint the other side of the canvas. This canvas now it's different, but this canvas I ordered, so it's linen canvas.
Linen, okay.
And it came already with the gesso, so it came already with the white surface on one side. But then I need to sand, so I need to sand the canvas to turn it really, really very, very soft. And I need to hoover a lot the canvas, and then I can start to drawing.
一回塗るって言ってましたね。
ジェスを塗る。
で、そこでヤスリでそうやって、掃除機で全部吸ってから初めてやるそうです。まあ、柔らかくして。
柔らかく。
でも柔らかくするって言ってました。
塗っている感じに写真ではあるので、もっと薄い感じに。
It doesn't look like canvas to Nohara-san. She said it looks like it's much softer than canvas, and it doesn't look like it's.
Yeah, it's true. It's. I mean, in the photography, it doesn't look like canvas at all. Maybe for real also doesn't look like canvas. And on the other side is black, so I use ink to turn it black, and it's well, in English I don't know if it's Indian ink or Chinese ink.
Okay. Yeah.
So it has this kind of brightness on the back. Yeah.
Okay. で、裏にはもう黒く塗っているそうですね。It almost, to me, it almost looks like a kimono obi or something.
Yeah. A lot of people think is close to Japanese traditional art. I don't know. Maybe I got influenced by that, and also by the how do you call that Japanese
Charcoal painting?
They were used to separate the space.
Shoji or like fusuma.
Yeah. So so on the surface of it, there's always a story. So yeah, I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
It does kind of look like that with the sumie. It kind of looks like a charcoal or ink painting, like an ancient Chinese.
But it's something that I really love them, and I mean, not my work. I mean the Japanese, and it's something that I always looked at. So maybe I got influenced by it. Yeah.
屏風かな、屏風。
屏風か掛け軸かなと思います。蒔絵とか、そっちの感じにも見える。
確かに。これ掛け軸に見えますね。Yeah. There's also something, there's a hanging scroll, Japanese hanging scroll. And Kaneko-san just mentioned that. It looks kind of like a hanging scroll.
Yeah.
It looks very textile. It looks like a textile.
Yeah. Now I'm doing differently. I'm not using already made canvas. I'm doing everything from scratch. So it's another process. Well, I'm not sewing. I use cotton fabric, and then I put myself the gesso and yeah, also all the process of doing a canvas. I'm starting before. I'm doing from the beginning. Yeah.
全部最初からそのジェストもやっている。そうですね。今こういう麻とかリネンではなくてキャンバスではなくて木綿を使っている。
Yeah.
何もなければ坂本さん何かありますか？
床置きの映像で、それぞれ別のことが行われていたと思うんですけども、それとその惑星自体との関係性
お名前お伺いしてもよろしいですか？坂中さん。So 坂中さん just asked about the videos that are on the floor of the planets, and there's different things being done to each of them independently, and they're all different. Does that have something to do specifically with that planet?
Yes, it's. I tried to not I tried. I got inspired by the history of the planet, and when we speak about the history of the planet, we always speak about when it was discovered. For instance, for the planet Mars, there's these two hands, the blue and the green, coming, and they are doing this kind of movements in a certain place, a line in the planet. And so this line is because when the planet was observed, not when it was discovered, but when it was observed with more proper observation lunettes, telescopes. So there's this American, very famous American astronomer. His name was Lowell, and he stipulated that there was mountains in the planet Mars, and there was a valley, a huge valley. So it's this line that we can see in the planet. And for him, this valley was not natural. This valley was for him made by something, like not a person, because there's no people in Mars, but something living. And this is when the speculation about Martians started. So for him, there was life in Mars, and there was living beings digging that valley. And so this story, so we are again end of 19th century. You see, is a very prolific timing. This end of 19th century crazy stories. So he said there was people living in Mars, the Martians, and this is when the story of Martians started. And then it was used by so many authors like Orson Welles, and even that did the War of the Worlds, right? Yeah, that was very scary and terrible, and we were going to be invaded by Martians. And then Steven Spielberg did his film also that is pretty much dark. So yeah, and then the hands have the blue and the green, because these colors are the colors that are used in cinema to do how do you say that in English? Encryption. When you want to put an image doing a effect. When, like, yeah, exactly. So these are the two colors used for that. So that's why I put these hands with these colors a little bit to make reference to all the fiction that's erased from this idea.
Oh, I thought it was in reference to green Martians, but
yeah, also, but the blue is yeah.
Okay. はい、浅川さん、おっしゃる通りで、それぞれ違うんですね。で、惑星について話すときはどういうふうに観察されたかっていうことについて必ず出てくるんですよね。で、一つの例で言うと火星があります。で、火星の作品だと、青い手と緑の手がこうガリガリ溝を作るような動きが見られるんですけれども、これは火星の運河を、参考に作った作品ですね。で、19世紀末に火星を観察した天文学者が、この火星の運河っていうのは自然によってできたものではなく、絶対に人工的にできたものだ。じゃあ火星には生命がある、生命がいるっていうふうに発表したんですね。おかしな話がたくさんあったそうですね。19世紀は特に19世紀末。で、そこから派生して、オルソン・ウェルズの宇宙戦争とかが作られたりとかしています。で、もう一つ、そこに重なっているのが、映像を撮るときに、ブルースクリーンとかグリーンスクリーンでよく使用するかと思うんですけれども、そのブルースクリーン、グリーンスクリーンの上に何でも載せることができるんですよね。そのイメージを。なので、その火星にまつわるフィクションの話と、映像制作においてブルースクリーンのそのフィクション、グリーンスクリーンのフィクションを重ねているそうです。で、各惑星にはそういうストーリーがあります。
はい、では、だいぶ時間が15分過ぎてしまったので、これで本日は終了とさせていただきます。はい。皆さん、くださりありがとうございました。